The UN Secretary General Office pushed the Security Council to send an international force to restore order in Haiti in spite of the possible repercussions that the intervention could generate. In Italy on Friday, at least 6 elderly people died and 81 people were intoxicated or injured after a fire in Milan. And Israeli forces killed 2 young Palestinian men during a new military incursion in the city of Nablus. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The UN Secretary General Office pushed the Security Council to send an international force to restore order in Haiti in spite of the possible repercussions that the intervention could spark. The special representative of the UN Secretary General for Haiti, Maria Isabel Salvador, expressed Guterres' unwavering commitment to the constitution of a force comprised of some 2,000 troops from different nations to reconstitute social peace in the Caribbean nation. The Security Council session was convened on the day that Guterres concluded his official visit to Haiti and called on the international community to act immediately. Meanwhile, Russia and China, both with veto powers in the Security Council, were skeptical about the possibility of carrying out an action that could be rejected by the population and insisted on the need to seek a political solution to the Haitian crisis. A Haitian government monitor has decried the unacceptable slowness of the investigation into the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. In a letter titled "The Coup of Blood," Haiti's Office of Citizens Protection argued that any failure to bring Moïse's killers to justice will open the way for the assassination of other heads of state in the same conditions, with the same degree of cruelty or of barbarity. The scathing letter was released to coincide with the 2-year anniversary of Moïse's killing on July 7, 2021. To date, the U.S. Department of Justice has charged 11 suspects in the killing, while the FBI and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security have sent agents to Haiti to aid in the probe. In March, Haitian-Chilean businessman Rodolphe Jarre pleaded guilty in a U.S. federal court for his part in Moïse's assassination. Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva led the relaunching of the National Industrial Development Council to recover the country's competitiveness in world markets. During the meeting, the head of state affirmed that his government will promote a new industrial revolution in order to make the sector more competitive, which he considered key for economic and social development. He also highlighted the commitment to approve a tax reform and the need to deal with the correlation of forces. The president regretted that in recent years the sector had been discouraged by policies that promoted imports. The Argentinian government announced that the official inauguration of the Néstor Kirchner gas pipeline will be on July 9th. According to authorities, the inauguration will take place in the city of Salliqueló during the 207th anniversary of Argentina's Independence Day. President Alberto Fernandez, Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, and the Union for the Homeland's presidential candidate Sergio Massa are expected to attend the ceremony. The event will be of great importance to show the operation of the crucial project for the country's energy supply and foreign currency income. In Colombia, hatred, stigmatization, and disinformation continue to grow in social networks and traditional media. That is why there are new projects and information programs that seek to document and follow up on these phenomena that prevent the truth from being the protagonist of much of the information consumed daily by digital, radio, and television audiences. Our correspondent in Colombia, Ivan Cruz, with details.
Stigmatization, changing local narratives in Colombia, is the name of the project that gave rise to the Verifico platform, a digital tool that will allow any citizen to analyze in detail digital phenomena such as the publication of false news and hate and stigmatization campaigns direct against human rights defenders, social leaders, and indigenous communities.
We have identified that in addition to the material violence that translates into aggressions such as threats, forced displacements, homicides, sexual violence against human rights defenders and leaders, in addition to these aggressions, there is also the level of symbolic violence, where, for example, the phenomena of stigmatization and disinformation have been paving the way for other aggressions to be committed, or to justify and naturalize these aggressions against women defenders and leaders.
Verifico will focus on departments hit by violence, such as Putumayo, Huila, Bichada, Cauca, Bolívar, and North Santander.
We have been able to see that much of the information circulating on the internet and in the media of disinformation and stigmatization is partly due to ignorance. Most of the verifications we have made are against indigenous community, and the information and analysis we have shown us that there is a lack of knowledge and a way of not accepting the different positions of the ethnic communities.
In Colombia, there are already other media observatories and digital platforms dedicated to denouncing and verifying the publication of false news, such as Colombia Check, that had even been supplanted.
It's a counterbalance to that fake news and disinformation that in some way influence the way people perceive reality and form an idea of what is happening in the country, and has also served many times to stigmatize sectors of society, particularly sectors critical of power, such as non-governmental organizations, social fighters, human rights defenders, or traditionally marginalized sectors. The presence of these platforms, which are becoming more and more frequent in the digital ecosystem, is very important.
At the end of 2021, an opinion poll conducted by the cybersecurity company Kaspersky in Bogota showed that almost 3 out of 4 interviewees, that is 73%, do not know how to differentiate between real and fake news.
Iván Cruz, TeleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
In Cuba, the Serpent Parade took place as part of the celebration of the Caribbean Festival, one of the most popular and important of the island. The Céspedes Park in the city of Santiago de Cuba was overflowing with singing, and the reverence to the deities of the Yoruba pantheon was not left out. With the petition for the welfare of the city, they opened this great celebration for the people of Santiago. Likewise, the event delivered offerings of brotherhood and protection to the highest authorities of the party and the government in Santiago, among them the cultural attaché of the Mexican embassy in Cuba, Santiago Rui. Finally, personalities from different nations such as the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Haiti, Martinique, Antigua and Barbuda, among others. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Italy on Friday, at least 6 elderly people died and 81 people were intoxicated or injured after a fire in Milan. According to the authorities, the main hypothesis is that it was an accident in a nursing home and it had 167 people at the time of the fire. The mayor of Milan, Giuseppe Sala, explained that due to the health conditions of the residents, they had to be taken out one by one, and that all the people hospitalized were suffering from symptoms. All those hospitalized had symptoms of smoke inhalation, varying severity, but none of the patients suffered burns, added Sala. The residence is located in a popular neighborhood in the southeast of Milan. It's owned by the municipality and managed by the Progresco cooperative, which controls 300 such centers in 11 regions and accommodates elderly people with varying levels of dependency who do not need hospital services. In the last 24 hours, 300 migrants have been rescued in the Mediterranean Sea in the framework of several operations carried out by the humanitarian ship of the NGO Open Arms. After the rescues, the boat is heading to the port of Brindisi in southern Italy, where they have permission to disembark. According to Open Arms, there are 300 people on board, many unaccompanied minors, 2 pregnant women, and a 5-year-old child. On the other hand, the ship GO Barents of Doctors Without Borders which a few days ago rescued 196 migrants, including 47 minors and 16 women, in 4 operations, is expected to arrive on Friday at the port of Marina di Carrara in northern Italy. So far this year, more than 66,000 migrants have arrived on Italian shores. The government of France assured that at least 20 people were arrested during the 8th consecutive night of popular protests in the country. The Minister of the Interior, Gerald Darmanin, pointed out in a statement that during the last day, 81 arson and 55 burned vehicles were recorded. The Minister Darmanin informed that 1.5 tons of pyrotechnic material have been seized in a little more than a week in the metropolitan region of Paris, where demonstrations are held. Russian spokesman Igor Konashenkov said that the long-range weapons aimed at Ukraine were intended to destroy weapons stockpiled from the West. Russian armed forces carried out on Thursday a long-range precision attack from the sea to destroy a warehouse of weapons sent by the West. On the other hand, Ukrainian authorities reported that after the Russian operation, 4 people were killed and several wounded. The Russian government repeatedly emphasized that any weapons from the West on Ukrainian territory with war purposes will be destroyed.
Tonight, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a group strike with sea-based long-range precision weapons at the points of temporary deployment of personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine and foreign mercenaries, as well as the depot storing foreign-made armored vehicles. All assigned targets have been hit. The objective of the strike has been reached.
NATO's penultimate attempt to remove Turkey's veto on Sweden's entry into the military bloc has failed. At a meeting at the Atlantic Alliance headquarters in Brussels, Ankara refused to lift its veto on Stockholm despite pressure from Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and U.S. President Joe Biden. Despite the results, Stoltenberg called an emergency meeting on July 10th between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson to secure Sweden's membership in the alliance.
In April, we welcomed Finland into the NATO family. This has been a game changer for our shared security. And now it is time for Sweden to join the alliance. I have been clear that Sweden has delivered on the commitments it made under the trilateral memorandum. Sweden has amended its constitution and introduced new anti-terrorist legislation, removed restrictions on arms exports to Turkey, and stepped up counter-terrorism cooperation, including against PKK. In the meeting, we all agreed that we have made good progress. We all agreed that the full membership of Sweden is in the security interest of all allies, and we all want to complete this process as soon as possible.
TeleSUR English launched its own videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Just go to the top left corner in our website homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. Now we will take a final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. On Friday, Israeli forces killed 2 young Palestinian men during a new military incursion in the city of Nablus. Local media denounced the occupation army forces stormed the old city and cordoned off a house before shooting dead the 2 young Palestinians. The Ministry of Health identified the fatalities as Hamza Makbul and Kaidi Shaheen. Following the massacre, a riot broke out and was suppressed by the occupation forces, causing gunshot wounds to the back and foot of 2 other young residents. In the last week, 12 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli army. The Palestinian National Authorities denounced that at least 800 homes were destroyed during the operation of the Israeli occupation forces in Jenin. The report published by PNA states that preliminary estimates show that the Israeli regime's attack on the refugee camp in the occupied West Bank has also caused economic losses estimated in at least $400 million. Likewise, the situation deprived around 30,000 citizens of access to water and electricity due to the fact that the damage caused in the attack is 10 times more than what the municipality can handle. In this context, last July 3rd and 4th, the Israeli army launched a large-scale offensive in Jenin using all kinds of aerial and ground bombardments, leaving 12 Palestinians dead and at least 140 wounded. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres accused Israel of using disproportionate force against Palestinian groups in a recent raid and warned against escalating the violence. The Israeli raid involving hundreds of forces, drone strikes and armored bulldozers targeted the northern West Bank city of Jenin, a center for multiple armed Palestinian groups. The UN chief called Israeli airstrikes and ground operations the worst violence in the West Bank in many years, with a significant impact on civilians, including more than 100 injured and thousands forced to flee. Guterres also called on Israel as an occupying power to ensure that the civilian population is protected against all acts of violence. He added that escalation simply bolsters radicalization and leads to a deepening cycle of violence and bloodshed.
I strongly condemn all acts of violence against civilians, including acts of terror. Israel's airstrikes and ground operations in a crowded refugee camp were the worst violence in the West Bank in many years, with a significant impact on civilians, including more than 100 injured and thousands forced to flee.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said on Thursday that he was planning to sign a security agreement with South Africa as militias continue to occupy swath of the eastern part of the country. The Congolese president made the announcement during a news conference held in the country's capital with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, after both leaders met on Thursday at the nation's presidential palace. Tshisekedi said the accord could take the form of a mutual defense pact and highlighted the mutual defense pact of the Southern African Development Community as a potential model, without going into details. Both leaders are attending the DRC South Africa Economic Forum, which brings together around 100 businessmen from the two countries. The visit from the South African president takes place as Kinshasa prepares for a general election at the end of December amid persistent security problems in the east of the country.
For the security and stability of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we really dwelt on this point, and he showed a keen desire to support the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we are even considering perhaps having bilateral agreements in addition to what exists at the level of the SADC on the subject of mutual support between states if one of them is under attack.
As President Tshisekedi says, on the issue of security, South Africa has been heavily invested and heavily present in the DRC on the eastern side, and we are also going to strengthen that relationship by having a bilateral agreement on security and defense.
At least 17 people, including 3 children, were killed in South Africa by a leak of a toxic gas used by illegal miners to process coal in a settlement of closely packed metal shacks. Emergency services initially announced that as many as 24 people might be dead in the Angelo settlement in Boksburg, a city on the eastern outskirts of Johannesburg, but police later said the number of deaths had been confirmed as 17 after a recount of the bodies. However, teams were searching the area looking for other casualties deep into the night. Police said the 3 children killed were aged 1, 6, and 15.
The bodies were scattered literally everywhere. And I want to thank our team because they know exactly where each body was. And they know exactly how that particular body arrived where it was. So I thought initially it was just an explosion in one area, but you can see people were running away from the scene, and then they started to fall as they trying to get areas where they can escape.
Preliminary investigations done indicate that there is illegal mining activity that is taking place here. You would have seen by now the police have removed so many cylinders of gas and still removing equipment and dismantling the illegal processing plants that are here.
We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
Huela Pouch.